Hello and welcome back to another episode of Wealth in Christ podcast, a show where we inspire the masses to become financially free while building God's kingdom. On our podcast today, we have Brittany Bettini. Ms. Brittany is a serial entrepreneur who specializes in helping frustrated entrepreneurs scale to seven figures quickly. In this podcast, we'll discuss Ms. Brittany's journey as an entrepreneur and how she has helped many entrepreneurs grow their business. So thank you for being here, Ms.
Thank
Brittany.
thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Not a problem. So my first question is, who is Miss Brittany Bettini?
So, honestly, it's been a crazy last few years because just it wasn't long ago that my life was very different, and I was a victim of domestic violence, poverty, lost our home, really just at the very lowest point in my life. And then I kind of followed the path of a lot of people in my family into entrepreneurship. And now my life is very different. So, who I am today is, I'm an educator. I help entrepreneurs. I take care of my entire family. I'm a huge family person. I retired my parents. I retired my husband. Now I just really am living out my dreams every single day. And my real passion is helping other entrepreneurs figure it out, helping other people out of poverty, showing women that what they've been through doesn't define them and that there is a whole nother life out there for them. So um, I'm still trying to figure out who Brittany Bettini is today because some days I'm like still stuck in the mindset of who I was before. And I wake up and I'm like, what is this life I'm living? It's kind of crazy, but I'm just enjoying it and learning a lot along the way.
That's really great. And you mentioned, introduction that you kind of just land in entrepreneurship because everyone in your family was
Yeah.
basically doing that. But what inspired you, like, okay, let's give it a try and see this is something I can really become successful at?
So honestly, I was working at our family's company as like a operations manager. I was kind of just like overseeing operations of the company, but I didn't have any ownership in the business. And so I obviously, when you are working for a company and you see how ownership has a lot of perks to it, you get to kind of make your own schedule, you get a lot of freedom, you get all the money, like all of those things. And so during the pandemic, I I just looked at my husband one day and I was like, you know what? I'm going to start a business doing credit repair. And kind of no one really believed that it would do anything or go anywhere. And I'm the kind of person when I say I'm going to do something, I mean I'm actually going to like do it and do it big. And so I started my own company doing credit repair, and I had learned all about it through repairing my own credit and getting myself back on track financially. So it was kind of an easy transition for me to start helping other people because I was already knowledgeable about the process and I was passionate about it. And I think that's what is important for entrepreneurs is that whatever they decide to do as their business, it should be something that for them is an extremely easy sell. It doesn't feel like you're selling anything, you're sharing your passion with other people. And so for me, I was able to reach people because I was able to show them my transformation. A lot of people knew where I was financially, or if they didn't, it was because I was good at hiding it, but I was able to tell my story and use my story of transformation to help other people. And so every business I've started since then has been the same thing. As I run into an issue in one of my businesses, it always leads me to opening another business because I'm like, well, if I have this problem, I bet other people do too. And they probably need help with it as well. So, I now have multiple businesses, but that's how the first one got started. I was just really bored at home in the pandemic. I'm a workaholic, and I was like, you know what? I want to be financially free, and I want to make my own schedule, and all of that. So that's really how it started.
Yeah, that's definitely well said. And I like the fact that you mentioned that, you started other businesses based on the other issues you was facing in your business. And that just leads me to ask, being that's the case, is first, why credit repair? Like you can go more into detail why credit repair was what you really wanted, passionate about.
So I needed credit repair when I was fresh out of my nasty domestic violence situation. I couldn't get approved for an apartment without a cosigner, and I needed a place for me and my kids to live. And my credit was ruined. I couldn't get a car. Like it was really bad. So I hired a credit repair company to help me, and they did things the wrong way. Um, they weren't doing things legally, and I couldn't get in touch with the company. I was having issues with the service I was getting, and so that led me to, well, if they're making all this money and they're doing it poorly, I know the type of person I am as far as customer service is concerned. I could probably do this and do it very well. And so that's really what led me. It was something I was passionate about, of course, because I had been there, and I knew the difference having good credit could make in a person's life. I mean, I went from laying on the floor in a pile of bills crying because I couldn't pay them to, buying a 5-bedroom house and having 5 cars, and like being able to buy businesses on a credit card because I had rebuilt my life financially. So I know what was possible. And if I could show people, you can go from poverty and food stamps and not having anything, and feeling like my life is over. There were days, a lot of times when I was going through that short amount of time where I lost everything, that I would say to myself, this is stupid. I'm never going to make it out of this. And, it's exhausting. And so I knew that's really the main reason, is I knew I could help people, and I knew that I could offer the legal way and do it the right way, and then offer a really, really good customer service experience that would make people tell their friends to come and make people, come back or whatever. So pretty much a bad customer service experience led me to being like, you know what, I could do that better.
Wow, that is definitely good. And while doing research about you and preparing for the interview, I realized that you're very big on customer service.
Yes.
And I wanted to, use it like, why is having a great customer service so important for entrepreneurs as they build in their business?
Well, word of mouth is huge. And like one bad review can crater your business. And like one bad customer service experience, people are more likely to tell people about a bad experience than they are to tell them about a good experience. So if you have, good reviews and everything, but then, you let your customer service go lax because you are growing too fast or whatever the reason may be, or a lot of people, they start making money, their business starts to take off, and they stop thinking that customer service is the reason why they were doing so well in the first place, and they start getting really lax on customer service. And I always wanted to, and I also think it has a lot to do with what my dad taught me. He started the janitorial business, and running that business, I learned that, the whole thing about the customer is always right. And of course, there are bad customers, and you have to get rid of them in a nice, professional way. I mean, the internet has made it where people get on, and if they have a bad customer, or if their customer asks too many questions, or their first instinct is to get on social media and talk about their customers in a negative way. And I don't know about you, but like if I'm online and I see a business owner talking about their customers, about how, you know, I'm not answering these stupid DMs anymore, or like anything like that publicly, I'm like, well, I don't want to be their customer. But for me, like I never do that. And then I always offer a good customer experience and customer education. If a customer's doing something that doesn't align with my scope or how I want things done, they get a pleasantly worded email that explains to them how we do things. Like there's a lot of little patting on the back and being kind to people that can accelerate your business. People will come back to you. Like, I have customers who cancel all the time, but I never get on and be like, they're broke or they can't afford my stuff. No, I'm like, don't worry. Everyone goes through a hard time. I've been there myself. Whenever you're ready to come back, we'll be here and we'll be ready to help you again, or whatever, the case may be. I think it makes a huge difference. You won't find a customer out there who has something negative to say about one of my businesses, because even if we didn't do what we said we were going to do, we gave them a refund. I would rather give a client a full refund than to give them the opportunity to go out there and say, I'm a scam artist, because there's too many scam artists out here. And once you get labeled as one, there's just no coming back from that.
No, that is definitely well said, and I agree with you. That it's not professional or not morally right to go on social media and start rumors or talk about a customer in such a way, because it says a lot more about you than actually the customer.
Right.
I think that most people don't realize that, 'cause it makes you untrustworthy. Because there's people, like you said, on social media, they can have one bad customer, and they're on Instagram Live for 3 hours, and
Yeah.
like, wow.
Yeah. Like, I don't want to be your customer. What if I say the wrong thing? Or like, what if I have an issue and try to address it with you, and instead of getting customer service in return, I get blasted on Instagram Live? Like, that's not the experience I want as a client. I want, and especially like in businesses where things are supposed to be confidential. Um, like, no one should know I'm your client unless I give you permission to tell people that I'm your client, or if I write a review for you. I mean, I think that has long gone. Social media has made it very difficult, to be a client and a business owner. It's a fine line to walk, but I feel like we do a really good job. And also, in doing so, like, when I have good customer service with one business and I've built a brand that people trust, it makes it very simple for me to open another business and be very successful, because they already trust me. If they trusted me to help them build their business credit, of course they're going to trust me to help them find the virtual assistant that will help them, because they already trusted me once and I fulfilled, and did a good job. So they're going to continue to follow me on whatever services that I offer. And so having good customer service allows you to expand your business and keep that same customer base. I don't want to have to recycle my customers every month. I want those same customers that were with me in the very beginning to be buying that product that I'm selling 10 years down the road, because I have been consistent and I have been, a good, morally right person.
Yeah, that's well said, and that's something I hope they didn't go over the listeners' head. The fact that you're able to find an audience, a person, a customer, and basically walk them through your entrepreneurship journey, whether it's credit
Right.
repair, whether it's the virtual assistant, so you have that same customer and you're helping them through the different stage of business. And I think, one thing that I'm grasping from this conversation is your empathy,
Yeah.
understanding that, we all go through hard times, we all go through different things. And like you mentioned, that, when people go on this rant on social media, they talk about people like they're broke or this and that. And I feel like something that people fail to realize or fail to remember at times is that they were once at that same position where you
Yeah.
couldn't afford certain things or certain situations happen. So I'm glad that you do that. And that leads me to my next question. How important is it for entrepreneurs to show empathy, you know, as they growing, as they getting more influence to their customers, to their peers? How important is having that characteristic of empathy?
It is very important. It's also a very hard, it's very difficult as an entrepreneur to juggle your empathy um and being an entrepreneur. Like, so for instance, I can't be in charge of like HR for my businesses, because I am so empathetic, and I do remember every day what I went through and how different things would have been if someone had reached out and helped me. That I've always wanting to help everyone. And sometimes business owners have to learn that if they are super empathetic, that they have to have people in place in their businesses or departments in their businesses that come between them and the sad stories that they're going to run into, because every single person, whether it's an employee or a client, is going to have a sad story, and there's a fine line between being profitable and being a charity program. Absolutely, and so it's hard for me because I am so empathetic. I want to help everybody. Like I want everyone to get to experience the transformation that I've been through, and oftentimes I forget how much work ethic I have behind what I do. I never asked anyone for help. I got up every single day and worked until I couldn't hold my eyes open anymore. And a lot of people don't have that work ethic, and they expect handouts from people who have found success without the actual work behind it. So I had to find a balance between being super empathetic and wanting to save everybody, to being a entrepreneur who can take care of my entire family, live the type of lifestyle I want, because I worked really hard all night long, all day long for years. So empathy is super important, and every person should exercise empathy in everything that they do. But you also, as an entrepreneur, you have to be very careful that you don't over empathy your business to the point where you don't have a business anymore, because you've given it all away. So it is important, but you also have to have that balance.
That you're 100% right. Having that balance and that boundary, and having people in place who can help you, when situations come to that point.
Yeah.
And that leads me to ask, you mentioned, as you was building this journey, this credit repair company, there was times, you had some challenges, in terms of mindset. So I want to talk about that before. How were you able to like change your mindset and thinking how I can do this? There's a light at the end of the tunnel. How are you able to do that?
Honestly, it's really nothing that I did. I surrounded myself with people who saw more in me than I did. Um, I was very fortunate to find my husband when I did, because I'm of course remarried now, and he always says that he's like, I knew from the very first time I met you what you were going to do, and he's like, I just needed, you just needed to believe it. And I still sometimes I sit around and I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this is happening. Or like, I can't. And he's like, why can't you believe? He's like, everything you want to do or everything you try to do happens because you make it happen. Um, I still struggle with it. And I've had to, I see a therapist now to deal with some of the trauma that I've been through. That helped me a lot, realizing that, you know, I could talk to someone and kind of work through the things that I've been through. Um, I was in a survival mode for years where like I had to figure out how to pay this bill, and I had to figure out how to, put this kid in daycare so that I could go to work. And then, just all, and now I don't have those same problems. It's different problems. And so I had to learn how to address the new problems without being in like a scarcity mindset and a survival mindset. And that was really difficult to do. So I surrounded myself with high level entrepreneurs who were doing better than me. Um, I learned to stop comparing where I am right now to where, other people have been working for a lot longer than me, where they are. And instead of being jealous of other female entrepreneurs or other high level entrepreneurs, I started studying them.
Mm.
Like, um, until we became friends. It's so crazy because one of my like mentors and friends now, I found him on the internet when he was doing a live, and I was like, oh my gosh, I remember running into my kitchen with my laptop and showing Bryson, my husband, I was like, this man's a genius, and we're going to be like him one day. And now like we have dinner together, and like we go to events together, and I speak it, it's really just manifestation and study. Instead of being jealous and bitter that someone has something that you don't have, it's studying them and figuring out how did they get that, and what can I do to mimic them while still being authentic to who I am and doing, my own work, my own journey, but learning what they do well and applying that to my life so that I can have, wealth, so that I can have a really wonderful life that I, feel comfortable in. And that's all I did. I just surrounded myself with people who believed in me more than I believed in myself. Um, and I got really lucky to find a group of people who really just nurtured what I was trying to do. They were like, yes, you've got it. You've got what it takes to do this. And that can be sometimes a lot harder for other people to find. I think some people are stuck in situations where they're surrounded by very negative people. And I made it very clear that I was cutting everyone out of my circle that was negative. And I stood on it.
No, that's really wonderful, and I like you said a lot of things that really stood out to me. And one of them was, the fact that you had a group, a support group that, saw the vision. It reminded me of the scripture where it says, good company, bad company corrupts good character. And
Mhm.
I like the fact that you was able to understand that, this new journey that you're going to take, you need to have people who believe in you, not people that are going to drain you.
Yeah.
And, it leads me to ask, because you said you was able to deal with that trauma, with the support, build a seven-figure business. Um, would you say it's important for an entrepreneur or for someone who may be interested in starting a business to deal with their trauma first? Understand how the trauma may affect them before they get into business?
I say this all the time. We have a podcast, myself, it's a female group. And I say this to people all the time. Often people who've been through trauma, everyone always says, "Oh, she beat the odds," or, "I can't believe she made it," or whatever. But I think that people who've been through trauma are the most well equipped to be entrepreneurs in the world. Because that's all entrepreneurship is. Entrepreneurship is daily drama. It is constant issues and problems. You are always in charge of putting out the fires and fixing the problems and dealing with the crazy clients and dealing with the crazy employees. All the problems get pushed to the entrepreneur. And, someone who hasn't been through a traumatic event or like a really hard time in their life, they may have a really hard time dealing with entrepreneurship. Not me, because I laugh at these little problems. I'm like, man, I've been through situations that literally tried to kill me. So there is no way that I am going to let something as small as, this overcome me. And what my plan is. So I think that people who've been through trauma, they don't necessarily have to wait until after they've dealt with, because I don't think you can just like get rid of it. Like I've been dealing with this trauma and trying to heal from it for years. And a lot of the reason why I'm able to go to therapy now, and the reason that I'm able to deal with my trauma and take a step back and really work on myself, is because I'm an entrepreneur.
Mm.
If I was still grinding and broke, I would have to ignore these mental issues that I have, or like these, hardship issues and trauma that I've been through just to survive. But now that I'm able to, I have the funds, I have the time, I have the energy back, I have a support system. Now I can actually take the time. And that wasn't until recently, until I learned how to delegate and automate and hired a whole entire staff to run my businesses. I still was working 24 hours a day, it felt like, and couldn't ever focus on myself. And so it's been very recently that I've started to actually kind of unpack all that I've been through and start working on that step by step. I don't think you have to wait. I just think you have to keep it in your mind that the reason that we are working so hard right now is so that we can have a beautiful life and then heal from all of this after we get to that, point where we can slow down, reflect, and have the money to pay a professional, to help us. Um, yeah, I think that you don't have to have one or the other.
No, I like that. No, thank you for sharing your perspective on that. It definitely makes sense. Now looking back and reflecting on your story, the fact that entrepreneurship gave you the freedom to do things, heal, grow and take care of your family. It leads me to ask, how did your faith, in God, through the time, through the ups and downs, guide you and continue to pursue, encourage you? through this journey still?
I honestly, a lot of the things that have happened to me in business I say this all the time, it could only be God. It could only be God's favor that had made some of these things happen. I'm, I'm an extraordinary person and I am a hard worker and I do right by people. But at some point, some of the wonderful things and the people that have crossed my path at the perfect timing, um, you just look up and you're like, I see you, like I know that was you, because there's no other explanation for it. But yeah, I mean, my faith, I'll be honest, it wavered a lot. Um, a few years ago, I was in a place where the person that I loved and had loved since I was 14 years old, um, had like, I just remembered looking up and being like, why? Why is this happening? Questioning, if you're there, this wouldn't be happening. And now, I think that the whole, God gives his greatest battles to his strongest warriors thing. Like that's something that I live by. I know that what I went through put me in a position to help other people.
Mhm.
Now I get to give back and I get to help women who have been, survivors or victims of domestic violence. I get to work with the shelter that helped me when I went through it myself. I get to coach people who have been through things and are trying to get to a point where they can help other people. This little tiny thing that happened to me is rippling out on all ends and is allowing me to help people across the world. It's allowing me to have a platform that I get to talk to people like what we're doing right here and get to explain to people that there is something on the other side of that doubt. Because I doubted his existence. I doubted the existence of my faith at all. I lost all my faith because I was going through a hard time. And I think that's very common for people who are going through a hard time. They're like, you know what? There ain't no way that this, would happen if, there were a higher power. And I don't feel like that anymore. I know that that was just, um, you know, one of the things that shaped me to be able to help millions of people later on down the road. So my faith is so strong now. And I'm so thankful that I got the opportunity to make it through that and then come out on the other side and help other people.
No, no, thank you for sharing that. I definitely love how you was able to like look at it from a different perspective and see it as an opportunity, ways to support you and, as a tool, to encourage you, to also encourage others, way use as a resource to, give to others who didn't have, when you were struggling. And which is really great. So thank you. Truly appreciate
Yeah.
thank you very much. And that leads me to ask, because going back to what you said earlier, you start a lot of businesses, you have your credit repair. Um, so at what point did you say, okay, now I can start, venturing out to different businesses, when, because oftentimes people want to start different streams of income because, the average millionaire has
Yeah.
7 years of income. So how did you go about venturing out to all these different businesses you have now?
Each business that I have had a purpose, or it was something that I needed. So I don't start a new business because I see so and so start a new business, or like that's someone made $1 million doing that, so I should do that too. Because if you aren't focused on things that you're passionate about, if you're not focused on things that you are good at, like something that you can actually sell, something that you have history with, I don't think that you can find success as easy. With me, every single thing that I did had a purpose. So when I first started the credit repair company, it's because I needed credit repair myself and I wanted to help other people. it was definitely a business that can be profitable if done right. So that was that. The next one, I started a Turo business because I had friends who were doing Turo. But right at that moment, I was trying to retire my husband, and he was driving a company vehicle. And so we had one vehicle and then his company vehicle. So I knew we had to buy another car in order for him to quit his job. And that was the next step for me. My next step was I wanted him out of corporate America and home helping me and with the baby and everything like that. So I thought, well, if I buy multiple cars, maybe we could Turo those cars and they could pay for all the cars. So that way I wouldn't have to take on more debt. I would then be able. So we started a Turo business, and now we drive for free. He has a brand new car. I have a brand new car, and we Turo the other cars so that we can drive for free. And they also cash flow. So it was a business that brought in more money while also solving a problem. Then of course, I had all this knowledge in my head about janitorial. I've been running a janitorial company for the past 5 years. I've been in the janitorial industry through my parents for too many years. I'll give away my age. So I had all this knowledge about janitorial, and I went to a conference and I met Marcus Rosier, and he was telling me all about, how, people can create courses from the knowledge that they have. So I did some research and I noticed that there were not a lot of people. There's, of course, thousands of people doing courses on how to credit repair and Turo and all that, which I know about, but it wasn't something that I actually am an expert in. But janitorial, there was like no one. And so I was like, well, this is something that could really take off. So I spent the next, 3 months developing a course on how to start and scale a janitorial company. So that's, another business. And then recently I've had virtual assistants for a long time, and I was invited to speak at a conference for a good friend, Ken Collier, and he has one of the largest Black owned, the largest Black owned virtual staffing company in the US. And so he invited me to come speak at his conference about janitorial and how you can use virtual assistants in janitorial businesses. So at the end of the conference, he made an offer that he would teach someone how to start their own virtual staffing company. And immediately I looked at my husband and I was like, there's nobody else in this world who is as passionate about virtual assistants as me. And I'm also one of the first people to ever use virtual assistants in a service industry business, because everyone uses them in their online businesses, their coaching programs, credit repair, all of, real estate. But my whole office is run by a virtual assistant in the Philippines for my janitorial company. And so I was like, that's a no-brainer. So of course I started our virtual staffing company 2 months ago, and it's already a 6-figure and will be a 7-figure business by the end of this year. Because I'm passionate about it. It's the easiest thing I've ever sold in my life, because all I have to do is get online or get with a client on a Zoom and say, okay, this is what my virtual assistants have done for my business. Really the main reason that I'm successful at all is because of my virtual staff who runs everything. And I'm the face and I do the consultations and I look pretty, whatever. But they're the reason that I'm successful. So as soon as you tell someone that, they're like, well, I need a VA too. And so that's what we named the company. I Need a VA. Because I would be at like a cookout. I would go to like a kid's birthday party. I remember I took my daughter to she's 9, and I took her to her little boyfriend's birthday party. And I was sitting at a table while they're all like jumping on the bounce house. And I'm sitting at a table with a bunch of parents, and a couple of them were entrepreneurs, and they were like, tell us how you've been so successful recently. Like, we're all watching, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, well, telling them about my virtual assistants. And at the end of the conversation, they were like, I need a VA. And I was like, yeah, I know. That's why I named the company that. And so, yeah, it's just every single time I open a business, it has something to do with something that's helped me, that I know if I share it with other entrepreneurs, that they will find success as well, as long as they apply it correctly. That's why, and then my coaching program. So there's 5 businesses in all. But the coaching program is where I kind of take everything that I know and just kind of like hand it to the next person. And as long as they apply it correctly, they should find some success.
No, that's really beautiful. And one thing I definitely like, as you're talking about your each individual business, is that something that you did for a long time before you
Yeah.
introduced it. It was something that you're very familiar with the in and out. It was not something like, oh, I just want to start a new business. Let
Yeah.
me go and look for people. And then so I do appreciate that you took time to see the advantage, the pros and cons, so you're able to sell, you're able to relate to people in that manner. But one thing I definitely want to talk about that you said is the fact that you retire your husband.
Yeah.
Um, and that stood out to me because it makes me want to ask, what's the relationship, with your husband, being the fact that, you're the entrepreneur, you're the one.
We're so
um,
unconventional. Like
yeah,
our dynamic is people look at us and they're like, what is wrong with her? Like, or like they look at him and they're like, he's lazy. Like we get that all the time. But here's the facts of it are this. When I met Bryson, I was dirt floor broke.
mhm.
He had an amazing job and lots of money and was doing very well on his own, without me around. And throughout the first parts of our relationship, when I was building and trying to figure out all of this, he developed psoriatic arthritis, or like he got diagnosed with psoriatic arthritis. And like when we first started dating, it was just like this little pain in the back. And then now it's some mornings he wakes up and he can't walk across the floor.
Wow.
Um, yeah. So he's also a better parent than me. Like there are some people that are like really good at being home with the kids, that he's so calm, cool, collected. He's so caring and empathetic and loving. I'm born to be an entrepreneur. I wake up every morning and I'm excited to go to my office and I'm excited to work, and I love my children more than anything in this world, but I am not born to be a stay-at-home mom. I don't fit that role. And he is so good at it. He of course helps me in the businesses. Like he's on staff at our um financial company. And so he works to get out of the house 3 days a week and stuff like that. And we have a nanny. But yeah, like we don't fit in conventional gender roles as far as a husband and a wife, but it works for us. And we're so happy and we have a beautiful marriage. We travel around the world, like we get along. He won't fight with me even if I try. Um like he's a really good man and I'm a really good entrepreneur. Like it just works for us. So yeah, a lot of people look at it and they're like, it's funny because when we first started dating, everybody was like, "Oh, Brittany found her a sugar daddy." Uh, but it's funny because now, like, I joke all the time that I'm his sugar mama because, like, he, of course, he stays at home with the kids and like gets to travel. I take him on cruises and like around the world, and we just have fun. Like, we really are so happy with where we are. We both found our happy place, and um it may not make sense to some other people, but it makes sense to us, and we really don't care. Like we're living our best lives. So we don't really care what other people think, honestly. But it's fun to mess with people. Like I introduce him all the time. Like when we go to events, I'm like, this is my sugar baby, Bryson. And he just laughs, or like he's like, yeah, man, I'm living my best life. Um, but we really have a good time. And I think that that's all that matters. I think people run into a lot of issues in their marriages when they are so set on fitting into gender roles. Like Bryson doesn't care if I don't clean the house or if I don't cook dinner. Like he'll order takeout and like he knows I'll hire a maid because I'm an entrepreneur and I make enough money to do that. Um and I think that after what I've been through, that is so refreshing, and I'm so appreciative of that because I always felt like I was walking on eggshells and that I couldn't be myself. And now I feel like I can really just say and do whatever comes to me, and I'm not going to be judged, and he really accepts me as who I am. And I think that a lot of people in marriages don't get that. opportunity to have someone who truly unconditionally loves you for who you are. And I get that every day. And so I'm very blessed.
Well, no, I definitely like the dynamic that you and Bryce had, and it kind of reminds me of this interview I had with this couple a while back, and it's like they explain that basically same with you. They look at each other's strengths and weaknesses, and it seems like that's what you and Bryce did. Look at each other's strengths and weaknesses, and basically play the roles
Yeah.
that fit those strengths and weaknesses. And I think that's important for people to do, whether it's in entrepreneurship or just in regular day life, play towards your strength and look for someone who can, you know, who's stronger than you where you're weak at. Which is really great that you found that in Bryce.
Yeah.
So that leads me to my question, you have all these multiple business, so what would you say, you know, are five things that makes you so successful at each one of them? Like, what are some five characteristics that make you so successful across all these different industries?
I think that number one is dedication. Like I don't give up very easy. There have been times in running the janitorial company that I just like lay in the shower and cry. And I'm like, this is too hard. And like people will look at me and be like, you know what? You should just quit. And I'm like, no, ew, what do you mean quit? You just let me cry for a minute. I'll be back up in a minute. Just like, I just need a second to unwind here. I'm just super dedicated. I'm dedicated to anything that I care about, whether it be people, friendships, and number one, especially business. Um, I'm super dedicated. I think that's number one. Number two would be consistent. Those are my top two. Anytime someone asks me my top two best qualities, I'm dedicated and consistent. Um, I don't take months off. I can't take months. I'm a workaholic. But like I'm consistent with it. If you see me posting on social media, like my social media posts are consistent. I have a schedule. Um, I am consistent in all things that I do. I don't I don't really take breaks and if things don't work, I just keep pushing through. So dedication, consistency, I'm fun. I think that you have to have fun in whatever you're doing. Like I joke around with my staff all the time. And I don't know if you've ever worked with virtual assistants in the Philippines, but they have a very like quiet, reserved culture, and everyone's like, very proper and everything. And I don't think that they're used to working with a boss like me because I'm like, all right, like, let's get it, like, and I'm just always full of life and excitement for what I'm doing. Um, and I think that that really helps me in business because your motivation's going to run out.
Mm,
You're gonna be motivated. You're gonna hear some speech someone gives, and you're gonna be like, yes, I'm gonna take over the world. I'm gonna be a millionaire in a week. But then a week comes and goes, and you're not a millionaire, and you're like, yeah, I don't know. And so dedication and consistency is what's there whenever that motivation runs out. And then you have to have fun. You have to be excited about what you're doing because that overflows to other people. How do you expect someone want to buy something from you if you're not even excited about it? It's like that man that's selling that Flex Seal stuff on infomercials.
yeah.
I watched a behind the scenes uh TikTok or something about it the other day, and it shows like where he cuts this boat with a chainsaw, and then he uses the Flex Seal paste to fill the hole. And it actually works, like behind the scenes. It actually wasn't just like movie magic. It actually works. And he was so excited. He's like, I told you guys it would work. I told you guys it would work. And I think that that's the kind of excitement. It's not always going to be like that, but I try to be very excitable about my business. So that's three. Number four would be probably customer service. I genuinely care about people, and I care what people think about me. This whole new phase or craze of people who are like, who cares what other people think about you? It applies to a lot of things like your marriage and your how you raise your kids or whatever. But when it comes to business, you have to care what people think about you.
Mm,
These are your customers.
yeah.
Like why would anyone give you their money in exchange for your product? If you're not putting out a good customer service experience. It's like Amazon, like if you buy something from them and you don't like it, they got like they will give you your money back, they will send you a new one, they will do whatever it is to fix it and then figure it out on the back end. And that's kind of how I run my businesses. I want the customer to be happy, and whatever wave that creates on the back end, we can deal with that internally. And then I'm trying to think what another, I got one more, right?
Yeah.
I already said fun. Can I have double
It's all right.
fun?
You don't have anything else. It's not
Yeah,
a
you
fun.
put me on the spot.
I don't, I'm not.
I guess I would say I'm innovative.
Okay.
Innovative. I like like, for instance, when I was running the janitorial company, I had to find ways to make it easier on me because I was working so many hours that I couldn't really. So I took everything that I learned about online businesses and automation and virtual assistants and all these things that people were teaching about online businesses, and then I applied them to my janitorial company where other people in that industry are doing the same thing for the last 40 years. I was being innovative. And so I'm always looking for new ideas that other people who have been successful are doing and how I can incorporate those into my business with my own flair. And if I
That,
could add one more thing, it's just to be authentic, just to be yourself. Like if you watch my social media, like I'm blasting my rap music and I'm, like driving down the road, just being me, making fun of my kids. Like I never pretend. I'm telling people about the hard times in business and what I go through, and I cry all the time, happy tears, sad tears, whatever, but I'm just authentic. Quit trying to be these other people. You're not them. Your recipe for success is, it might have some of the same ingredients as theirs, but it's a completely different formula, and you just have to be authentic. People are drawn to authentic people. And I think that that's one thing that's really helped me in business, is just being myself, being loud and crazy and big. Like when I walk into a room, like my energy is big, and like the people who don't like me, they go that way and they're like, oh, here she comes. But the people who know me and love me, they know I'm authentic, and I never get questioned whether or not I'm just being me. And I think that that's been a huge part in being successful in business.
nah, that was really great. And I could definitely say that it's like you're very consistent being who you are. All the articles that I have read, the video I've seen, is all the same. And I feel like, that's something a lot of successful entrepreneurs, they have. No matter where you see them, you're still gonna get that same energy. You're gonna hear that
Yeah.
same story. Like everything is so consistent. It's like,
Yeah.
and I feel like
You
that's what
can't fake the funk for long. You're gonna trip up eventually, and someone's gonna be like, oh, here she comes. Here's the real Brittany. But no, it's just me.
like you're right. You're 100% right. And it reminds me of a quote my mom always tells me all the time. A lie can go for years. You can live this life for a year, but one day the truth's gonna come out. You don't know when, you don't know how, and it's gonna come out. And I feel like, just going back to what you mentioned with a lot of entrepreneurs or influencers who scams people, and they think they can get away with it. Eventually it's gonna catch up to you where people are gonna realize and name you as that scam artist or that.
Yeah, and then you're labeled for life. You have to literally change your name.
Yeah.
Because one hashtag of your name and everything that everyone's ever said about you is going to come up. You can't you can't hide from it now. Like maybe back in the day, like in the olden times, you could go from city to city scamming people and do that. But now, the internet is going to follow you in whatever that you do, and you'll never be able to get that reputation back. It just never happens. And so everyone's always going to be like questioning, should I give my money to this person? Am I, ever going to see my money again? And I don't ever want anyone to think about me like that. I would rather just give them their money back and be like, no. But yeah.
That's well said, and that's well said. And I have just two more questions.
Yeah.
One of the questions is, you have coached a lot of people, helped them, get to seven figures. What would you say is a common then that they all common theme or common state that they all make that stops them from getting to that 7 figures or that 6 figures in their business?
Overthinking, waiting. Um, so I think that there's a lot that goes into launching something. Um, but I can tell you one thing, that I have launched businesses in 24 hours. Um, as long as I have an idea, a logo, and a landing page, like you can, and then you just figure out along the way, you can rebrand, you can redo, you can fix, you can make it better, you can add automations, but just most of the people that I run into, especially when they want to hire a coach or a mentor, is they're scared to death to actually launch, to
Yeah.
actually start the business. And I can say that my first 7-figure brand was launched out of me pregnant, sitting on a couch at 1 a.m, watching someone else on live. And I just decided that that night I was going to develop a logo. Of course, we've rebranded since then and changed our logo, but like I made a logo, I made a quick little free website and started doing research and getting all the documents I needed. I filed my LLC, and in 3 days I was up and running, taking payments. So I think that a lot of people get hung up on trying to make everything perfect before they actually start the business, where in actuality you need that money, that you need that money that you're going to make from the business to make the business better, to make the reinvest into the business. Because I didn't have a whole lot of extra money. I was working for somebody else. I didn't have um a whole lot of liquid cash that I could just invest in a business. So I started out with, like, I think it was $1,000 investment in my credit repair business to get it started. And then, grew it and grew it and grew it, and then reinvested and made it better, and new websites and new CRMs and, you know, new softwares and employees and so many different things that we've added over the last 2 years. But if I hadn't just launched it, I would still be sitting around like, I wonder if this logo is good enough. Nobody cares about that logo. They want to see results. They want to know that you're going to take care of them. That's all they care about. I just made a promise to people. I'm going to do right by you. And here's my website. And then, I stood on it.
No, that's well said. And it reminds me of, Ken Collar, I interviewed him
Yep.
a couple months back, and he said one thing that stuck with me that I try to apply every day as possible. And is that done is better than perfect.
Yep.
'Cause perfect never gets done.
Yep.
And I feel like people need to understand that, once you start something, there's always room to change, there's always room to get better. But you getting done is the first step and the most hard step, while you're starting anything new.
Yeah.
And I think people need to realize that. And it leads me to my last question, being that, you're a 7 figure earner, you're a woman that everyone looks up to, man, and everybody looks up to you, Brittany did this, and did that, what would you say to someone, specifically a woman, who may be in a position you were, um, and can't see past the current situation? What would you say to them for them to get started?
It's just one step at a time. I never envisioned this. If you would have asked me 5 years ago if I could see this life, I would have been like, you're crazy. But I did see the end of that first step, having good credit. And then, I did see myself having a small business. And then I did see, like each step, I could see the end of that step. And then as you get to that step, you can see a little further. And then as you get to that next step, you can see a little further. And the main thing that I can say is just don't stop walking towards it. Whatever it is that you want out of your life, it is very much possible. And it can happen very, very fast. I mean, I think that what I've done has happened very, very fast. Um, it feels like kind of a whirlwind that I've been through in the last, it's been 5 years since I was begging some boy to co-sign for me on an apartment that I was like dating for 5 minutes. I was like, I can't get my kids a house. Can you like co-sign for me and get in this apartment? To now, you know, being able to just really sign my name and get anything that I want because I've built all of this around me. It happens very fast if you keep your head down, keep focused, and work really, really, really hard. And that's it. That's all you have to do is just put your head down and don't listen to any of the stuff that's around you and just work really, really hard.
Oh, that's very great. Definitely want to say thank you, Brittany, for this
Yes,
time.
of course. Thank you for
Um,
having me on.
Not a problem. But where do you see yourself in the next 5 years?
Um, so I'm working with my attorney right now, and we are protecting our new brand because my team is incredible. My internal VAs who run my businesses, like of course we provide VAs for other people, but my internal team that we've built is like a family. And in the next 5 years, I plan on building something in the Philippines for those people, either having an office space for them to be together. I want to build my chief operations officer, Michelle, who was my original first ever virtual assistant. She was my executive assistant, and now she's the chief operations officer of our company. I want to build her family a house. Um, I want to take care of people who have really helped me become who I am. Um, I want to pay off my parents' new house, and um, I really want to be a blessing to other people and to take everything that I've gained from being very obedient in my work and bless the people that I love. That's all I want to do. That's like my only goal every day. Like people are like laughing, like I want to travel and I want to eat fancy food and I want to take care of the people I love. And that's it.
There's no better goal than that to take care of people that you love. And where can people stay in touch with you? What is your coaching program, or how can people continue to stay in touch with you?
So all of everything that I do is on my website, BrittanyBettini.com. And so everything that I do can be found there, from janitorial to virtual staffing, whatever it is that you need, can be found there, of course. And then I'm at Brittany Bettini on all social links. Try to keep it consistent so I'm easy to find. But yeah, we're BrittanyBettini.com is the best place to find me and everything I've got going on.
Great. And I want to say thank you again, Miss
Yes,
Brittany.
of course.
It
Thank
was definitely
you.
a pleasure having you. And for those who are listening, one thing I want you guys to take from this is just to keep going. Don't quit. Love people, be empathetic. Because that's what is really matter, and that's what will create success, make you become successful. And if you're looking for a community of Christians who are working on reaching their financial freedom without compromising their faith, look no further and join the Pray and Invest group on Facebook. And also, I have a free study guide where you can get my website, wealthinchristbrand.com, which will show how you can get started in the stock market completely for free without compromising your faith. And stay tuned for next week's episode. And thank you again, Ms. Brittany Bettini.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you.